Okay, in previous videos, we talked about definite loops. And again, just to keep harping on this point, a definite loop just means that the number of iterations can be determined by the program. This video, we want to start talking about indefinite loops, which are different than infinite loops. We'll do some demonstration on infinite loops in a second, but indefinite loops means it's hard or not easy to determine how many iterations you're going to go through. For example, let's say the loop is waiting for you to tell it to quit, or the loop is going through a very large file and you don't know, or the program doesn't know how many lines are in that particular file. So it's not easy to determine that. We do indefinite loops with the while loop. So let's go up to my screen and let's take all right, let's take a look at my screen here. This is our kind of our old friend, and all this is a little program that strips out any characters in a phone number. I made some slight changes to it, just so you're aware of it. For example, I basically have a constant variable here, no need. That's not going to change within the program, so I figured, kind of make it a little bit fancier Java here. If I run this program, and here's my phone number, and if I run it, give it a second, and it takes all those characters. I want a program that doesn't take one phone number, but can take many phone numbers. Oh, so why don't I just try it here? I'll say 440.525.001, and let's run this. Well, of course it's not going to grab that. It just grabbed the first string. Clean up a little bit. It just grabbed the first string. I want to grab more strings, and I don't know how many strings. That's the whole concept of an indefinite loop. It could be one, it could be two, it could be 2,000. It's not easy to determine how many iterations we're going to go through. So this is a great example. We can do a while statement. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I'm going to put my while statement. I'm going to put it right here, right after the initial grabbing of the first phone number. We used to call that priming the pump, right? So we grab that first phone number and then we test it. And we're going to say, wow, now here's where it can be a little confusing. The phone number is a string. It's difficult, not really difficult. It's not as clear of comparing a string because it's not a primary variable. So if I say phone number, right, I can't do a not equal. That's not going to work. So I have to pretty much go out to the internet, check the books, and it says, well, I can do an equals, and I can say quit. And I'll even put my brace down here. All right. So I'll indent these just so they're a little bit easier to read. But this is not going to work. The reason it's not going to work is because we're not testing if the phone number is quit. Go into the loop. If the phone number is quit, we want it to test that it's not quick. And again, I did a little, internet research. I went out there, and this is a normal practice. Not everybody remembers all the different commands associated. So I went to the internet. I said, how do I compare an entire string? Because a string is not a primitive variable. Well, I have to tell it here. See, let me get rid of that for one more second. This is going to return a true, our Boolean logic. It's going to return a true if the phone number equals quit, and that's going to jump you into the loop. I don't want to, if the phone number equals quit, I want to get out of the loop, not in the loop. So this is going to return a true. So I'm going to say negate that. All right. So basically, whenever, I know it's a strange logic, but if you really think about it, it says if the phone number is not equal to quit, go in the loop. The moment we get a quit, then we jump out. It'll make more sense as you work with this stuff. Bear in mind. So obviously, let's run this. All right. I'm going to run the program. Ooh, problem here. Yeah, the problem is I basically got into an infinite loop. And an infinite loop means you programmed it wrong, meaning that it stayed in the loop and it never got out of the loop. Because what happened, if we look at our code here, I never reached in and grabbed another phone number. So I grabbed the phone number here, but I never got the next phone number. So after I run everything, wouldn't it be nice if I basically got another phone number? All right, well, let's run it again. And this time we'll put another number in there. Well, let's run it. It ran, but it gave us a problem. This is a significant problem here. What happened was it got the first phone number, did something to it. Got the second phone number, did something to it. Reached out for the third phone number and there was nothing there. It reached the end of the file. And that is a very dangerous programming event. If you take any of my cybersecurity courses, it almost mimics a buffer overflow. You're going into areas you're not supposed to be going into. So the operating system, the program said, whoa, wait a second. You're going past where you think. So what do I need to do? Well, what I basically need to do is put quit at the end of my cycle. So now if I run it, it ran, no errors. It got the two things. The moment it hit that quit, going back to our loop here, the moment it grabbed the quit here, went up here and said, oh, it's equal to quit, jump out of the loop. Now, let's go to Replit and let's continue this demonstration. That was in Zybooks. Now, in Replit, I haven't put the while statement in there. Let me run this. And it's waiting for some kind of input. All right, we're all well familiar with that, watching my videos. And then the program stops. I want a program that keeps running until I tell it to stop, until I type quit. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to put a while statement in here, and I'll basically, from memory, what is it? Phone number is going to be equals quit. All right. This bracket down here, we'll do some indentation to make it a little bit clearer. All right. So again, this logic takes a little bit of practice getting used to. If I do the method equals, the string method equals, it will return a true or a false. So basically, and this will negate it. So if it grabs a phone number and the phone number is not equal to quit, then it becomes a false, and then we basically negate it, which means we jump in, it becomes a true, and we jump into the while loop. It takes a lot of practice with that Boolean logic. Trust me on that one. So anyways, here's my code, and as long as I lined everything up correctly, let me clear this. All right, let me run the code. And I'll put a number in, 440-525-0001. Infinite loop again. Now, let's stop this. You can see the buffer is really going crazy. What did I forget? I forgot to feed the input. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say phone number equals to scanner, next line. All right, now let's run it. Give it a second to compile. I'll say 440-525-0001. All right, now it's waiting for my next input. 440-525-0001. 0002, and it's just going to keep iterating through until some event. And that event is either I give it another phone number or I tell it to quit. Right? This is an indefinite loop. There's no way that I can really, there's no easy way to determine how many iterations we are going to go through. Well, I don't want to sit here as a human and type these phone numbers. So if you watched my other videos about, a real quick auto grader, I want to give it a whole bunch of phone numbers. So I'm going to go to shell, and over here in this phone number file, I'm going to create a couple phone numbers, and through the magic of cut and paste, and I'll change them so we can see them going through. All right. And now I'm going to stop the program over here. I'm going to go to my shell, and that little garbage can is going to drive me crazy. I'm going to do some redirection, move some things just over a little bit. I'm going to say Java, main Java. And if I don't give a redirection, it's going to sit in there and wait for me to type something. We've seen that before. And if I quit here, all right, but I want to redirect the content that's in this file over here. So I'm going to say Java, main Java, redirect phone.txt. Now, hopefully some of you are looking at this saying, Nick, you're going to get yourself in trouble here. And think about it. It should work, but something bad is going to happen. So let's hit enter. Give it a little bit of time, and something bad happened. Did it iterate through all these? Absolutely. But what happened was it went to the end of the file and there was nothing there. So that's a very dangerous practice. So what do I need to do? Well, I have to tell it to quit. Quit. And if I run if I clear this again, and now if I run it, give it a second, it went through, it iterated the number of times, and then when it hit that quit, it bounced out of the while statement. What if I put the quit someplace else? Quit doesn't necessarily have to mean end of the file, right? If I put the quit there, let's run this program. See, the event of the quit happened. Again, that fundamental difference between a definite loop where you can basically, or the computer can basically figure out how many iterations versus an indefinite loop. We're often called upon to use indefinite loops. Again, to establish a file. You don't know how big a file is. What if I tell you to go through the entire War and Peace or something, or the first 5 chapters? Those are hard numbers to calculate. Now, let's go back to just me talking for a second. Again, this video was just a really quick demonstration of a indefinite loop. And again, an indefinite loop, I'm going to keep beating this over and over again. Indefinite loop just means it's not easy or almost impossible to determine how many iterations you're going to go through. Where a definite loop, like the for loop, you can determine how many iterations you go through. Now, in the next series of videos, we're going to look at some very sophisticated loops using some redirections and things like that. So that being said, let's go learn something.